welcome back to the channel, Jack of all trades, and today we are getting back to the Camaro. I think there was just some rust that fell out. Anyway, so I had my son earlier, the one that's recording, go ahead and pull all the stuff out. So the inside's pretty much cleaned out right now. So we're going to work on the brake system, because obviously you need brakes to stop when you go. So we're getting ready to start tearing into all this stuff and come up with a good parts list so we can start ordering some parts and hopefully get this thing up and running here pretty quick. Start doing some polls, start doing some racing, start doing some tire smoking. Alright guys, well stay tuned, probably get some time lapse, maybe not, I don't know, we'll see what happens. We gotta get it out. We gotta get this bolt out. No, it doesn't matter. We gotta get this out. Where's the actual socket? Give me the. Yeah. No, not the impact. The press it. Press it again. You can use the impact on that one. The other one you want to be on the half inch, and another one too, another press. Okay, well, this is Pittsburgh. Ready? Yep. Alright, let's put the bolt. Put the bolt. Yeah, it was over the Suburban ones today. I guess apparently must use it over Jack Wilson one? Go down. Get out from underneath it. Can I stop? I can put it down on this one. The springs are going to fall out, so we're not going to shoot out this one. This is the most important. Yeah, good. Going. That's the shed. We need to have a tour real quick so you know where everything's at. Oh, I can hear that. You should have stainless colored stuff. Alright, let it down real slow.
Good thing it doesn't just fall out. That should be high enough.
That needs to be a shot. You want to go in there and take the shot? Hey! Look at your picture. So what did you get stuck at work for?
D2 inch.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta like fucking angle it, twist
yeah, pick it up. You gotta pick it up. Is it heavy?
Turn it, bob it.
Watch out for the wires. Hey, Justin, you got that fuel neck out?
There's no guiding it. You gotta fucking twist it. There you go. There you go. You got it.
Hey!
Yeah, that's what we struggled with last time on mine.
That's weird. Yours had more.
Vinegar bottle.
Yeah. Scratch out the bottle.
It's still weird though, because it's not going to just re-level. It's also going to do the fuel pump, right?
Huh?
It should also be doing the fuel pump, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all it is. I don't know about the gas gauge though. I don't know, there might be another, like a ground or something on it. Alright, we're recording again. Another day, another dollar. Alright, we got the motor in. I've got new bolts from the Lowe's. 1/2 inch by 6 inches long. I did the nylon locking with some washers. Now the only issue is right now I slid the motor mounts forward so the engine's back further because I noticed it seemed like it was sitting forward a little too much. The other thing, the oil pan is literally touching the cross member. So my thought on this is taking the motor back out and pounding that cross member down just a little bit there in the middle. Let's see if I can get a better shot for you folks. There you go. Yeah, she's literally touching. So I'm thinking if I can hammer that down just a little bit. I know it's not the greatest way of doing it, but it'll work. Because I kind of like the way the motor's sitting right now. And this is the GM Performance pan, so it is a little bit more clearance. The other thing, I'm gonna have to try and angle the engine back a little bit. This puppy is, I mean, the clearances are there. That's about as close as it gets. Okay, here we go. So I don't know if that really gives much reference. I cannot fit my finger through there. If I had to guess, it's probably about a 1/4 inch clearance. Now I've turned the wheels lockout to lockout and it does not touch. The only thing that touches right here against this, and it just barely touches it. So I'm thinking I'll just grind this at an angle. So I'll just take off a little bit of it here so it doesn't touch. Other than that, we're good. We got the transmission in. Cross member is in. I'm gonna have to probably add some spacers to the cross member just to allow it to tilt back a little bit, so the tail end of the transmission will angle just a hair. The other clearance possible issue may be the header. I did cut it, so it is cut. Let me see if I can get an underneath shot. And I apologize for any wind noise because this microphone loves to pick up wind noise. So here is the undershot. Clean this lens. Come on, focus. Okay. So here's the undershot. So I think with some trickery and some angle cuts, we'll make it work. Because as of right now, the mounting bracket for the lower control arm, it's pretty much blown right on it. But after getting a piece of pipe, I should be able to cut it at an angle. No, this is not easy. Sorry, folks. Sorry. Let me get this here. Turn the screen around. Okay. There it is. Okay. So I should be able to follow the angle of the frame. There we go. I should be able to follow the angle of the frame. So cut a pretty severe angle on the exhaust pipe and weld this piece in, because that should work. I mean, that gives me plenty of room. It's a little tight up against the brake line, but it's not much I can do about that. But that will follow that there pretty good. And then once we get rid of these old lines, that's an old return, I think, return line or whatever it is. That's the old line from the old system. This was an old carbureted system, so I would love to be able to tuck this in here, but I know that's not going to happen. So I'm going to try and hug underneath the frame as tight as possible, all the way back. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, I'm down here in the dirt. I'm getting ready to go clean on some stuff. I went to Lowe's. Lowe's is having a good sale on Rust-Oleum paint right now. It's like $4 and something, $4.68 a can. It's a 15-ounce can of rattle can of enamel Rust-Oleum paint. So got a couple of those. I got a couple undercoating, so I use that for under here. And that's what we're working on today. All right, guys, take it easy. Alright guys, this is going to be another day in the process of doing the Camaro, and what I got back here is one of the boys working on the rear end, doing rust removal. So we can paint everything black, get it protected. What do you think, Shugs?
Awesome.
Alright, he's loving it. What we can do here is actually set this, get another jack stand, and then set it up here so that way it's up. But so far what I got going on here, I've been tearing into this wiring harness. Last night I've spent several hours on this. So if you guys are looking at flipping your wiring harness, it's really not that hard. What you gotta really think about is where you want to put the ECU. And right now it's kind of hard for me because I'm not doing this on the car. I'm doing this kind of in theory on how I want to set it. So for anybody out there that might need some help figuring this out, here you go. What I did was I took the alternator and I set the alternator about where it's going to sit, which is roughly right around in this area. So here's your alternator, and I wrote down on the actual connectors themselves, the ones I could. This is all for your throttle. So you got one is going to be your IAC and one is going to be your TPS, which from what it looks like, this is probably your TPS. Oh no, your IAC, your intake air control, and this is probably your TPS. I don't know, could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Write that in the comments. But I know it's either or. And then this goes on your onto your alternator. And then here is one of your coil pack connectors. So I'm giving myself a little bit of room. Now also on top of this, I'm waiting for some wire loom to come in. I ordered it from Amazon. I don't know when it's going to be here. I've got some 3/4 inch wire loom, which is over here. Oh, and I also bought wire loom tape. Stuff is amazing. It was like $5, so I highly recommend you buy that. That stuff is good. Here's the 3/4 inch wire loom. All right, sorry for this angle. I'm gonna set you down. So this is the nice wire loom. This isn't the same kind of stuff that came on the car, like the hard plastic brittle stuff. Alright, that's old school. So what this is, it's a lot nicer. It's a nylon. It's kind of a little bit more squishier, but it's also split. So this does up to 3/4 inch. I think this is 25 feet, and I think I spent $11 for 25 feet. So this is mostly for the thicker areas where all this stuff is going to get kind of thick. The wire loom tape is 5 rolls for like $5 or $6 on Amazon as well. Of course, I'm sure you can find it other places. But what's nice about this stuff is it's soft and it's very sticky and it won't leave residue. Everyone in the comments was talking about how great it works and it doesn't leave residue. Now, I've been kind of doing mixed uses of it here, and it doesn't stretch. So I guess the material feels like cotton. So the material doesn't really stretch, so which is nice. So when you put it on there, it stays on there, and it's not going to leave a gooey residue after the fact. But I've been using a mix between electrical tape and that, just because I don't want to burn through a bunch of this tape, which I don't think I would, but you never know. Any case, back to what we're doing here. So I've got 1/4 inch wire loom coming like this. So the 1/4 inch is going to be for coming off of these onto here on all these. And what I tried to do was mimic how it's going to sit. So I figured everything's going to kind of ride right about there, and you know your coil packs are right in the center. Same on this side. Coil packs are going to ride right in the center. You are going to have to extend some wires. So if you don't know how to solder, learn how to solder. Because I had to extend a ground for the coil pack, because other words, all this would have been scrunched up in here, and I wouldn't have been able to open this loom up like I have so far. So right now you see I have it stretched quite a bit. So right now it's going pretty good. So I'm going to combine this over to here. This one will come in here, so they'll combine together on the back side and then shoot over to the ECU, which I'm thinking once I kind of unwrap the rest of this tape, I'm thinking this will separate a little bit more and fall away, so it'll give me more room to put it either on this side of the engine bay or inside the actual car itself. Now what I did here on all these connectors, because I did it too as a gray colored tape, what I did was I used that wire loom tape and went ahead and taped the wires to the little plastic rail, the little support for the injectors. Come on, focus. Focus. Focus, there we go. So I went ahead and put some tape around there. And of course, once I put the wire loom on, it'll be a lot nicer. So if you're familiar at all with these cars, you'll know, or with these engines, you'll know your oil, see your oil pickup, or your oil pressure sending unit, your crank or your camshaft positioning, and your knock sensors. Well, your knock sensor typically is up here, but you should be able to kind of pull it back, and I put them all together here. Alright, so you know they're going to sit all right around this general area. Now the oil pressure, which is kind of odd, was on, I can't remember, this was like the F100 connector, or I can't remember the name of this connector, but it was in this connector, which I thought it went directly back to the ECU, but apparently not. So that was kind of different. I went ahead and clipped all of my injector pink wire hot wires, because these are triggered by a ground through the ECU on the firing. So they're always going to have power, 12 volts power to all the injectors. And of course your map sensor. This was pretty easy, brought it back here. I remember back when I first originally messed with this, I did have to take a connector apart. I don't remember which one it was. One of these connectors are not hard to take apart. You need like a small little tiny pick type screwdriver to get in there and pick them, and get the little tab in there to push in, and then you can pull the connectors out. Just take pictures of it so you know where the wires went. So I had to do that on, I think, on a couple connectors to get that connector kind of free from the whole rat nest of wires. The only other thing I can tell you guys on these, it can look daunting, it really can. Oh yeah, that's right. Let me get my train of thought going. All right, so I took all the pink wires and I soldered them into one heavier gauge red wire. So these are going to be all your odd numbered injectors. Now, yes, this is tape, but underneath this tape is some heat shrink. So I did make sure I used heat shrink. I heat shrink everything. I solder all your connections in this. Do not wire crimp. Please do not wire crimp. Take the time and actually solder your connections. You'll thank yourself later when you don't have any issues and no gremlins, because those crimp connections just do not work. Vibrations, stuff like that, trust me. I've been there, done that. Don't be lazy, solder it. Heat shrink it, and then I just run some tape over it just for a little bit of added security. So there's heat shrink on this ground. I haven't taped it, but there's my heat shrink. So now here's all my even side, bank number 2, 2468, all here. So I know that because obviously I tracked them right back off of the injectors themselves. So all these different colored wires are a negative. So those are going to come off of the main power block here. So I clipped all those pink ones off because I know those are going to need to go to 12 volt. I do have just a generic fuse box I got from Amazon. It was like $15 from Amazon. Same one we used on my son's car. Right here. So this is what everything's going to wire into. And I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to put it just yet. I'm still aiming to put it inside the car just to make it look cleaner. Here you go. Simple. It's got 2 brackets. All your wires come in on the bottom. Open it up. There's your baggie of connectors. There's your baggie of connectors. That's what it looks like. So all your fuses go in here. Relays. And of course your cover. So that's what I'm going to be using. It works. So I know everything works. So these here have these little rails, so you can run power on one and you don't have to run a power wire to each one. So it's kind of nice. But you can break them up, you can cut them and break them up if you need to. That way they are separate. But everything's going to need pretty much 12 volts. There is some, I think, that you're going to want 12 volts when the key is on versus just always hot. I don't remember those off the top of my head. If you need to know that, I would suggest going to lt1swaps.com and read through it like I did. Unfortunately, you have to use your skills from school and read it. So what I'm going to do is continue on with my venture on where I want to go. We're going to probably drop the motor in later, do some time lapse, drop the motor in, because I do want to go ahead and set the motor in here, set the wiring harness in, and see about snaking everything through there. Worst case scenario, I might have to drill that hole out just a little bit bigger. We got some hole saws. So bought a front brake line kit, so it comes with a new right side brake caliper, the new left side brake caliper, and these little jumpers into the proportioning valve. This one had a pinhole right there. Come on, focus. Yep, right there, pinhole. So might as well replace those brand new. It was 58 bucks. The rear one's fine. There's no issues with this one. We actually blew air through it, blew all the junk out. So we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Where's your face mask?
What?
Safety. All right, guys, stay tuned.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.